gorgeous, welcome back to the makeup aisle. Today's video is going to be a review on several products that I purchased from BH Cosmetics several weeks ago. I have used all of these products many times actually, so I wanted to kind of do a one brand review. Now I haven't used all of the BH Cosmetics products, but the products that I have used I will tell you about and let you know what I think of each product. So I'm kind of going to go a little bit in order of how you would actually get prepared with concealer, foundation, that sort of thing. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the 6 color concealer and corrector, and this comes in different shades. Mine is in the medium, and this is what it looks like. So you see you have kind of your concealers there on the bottom. You have the green up there, the yellow, and the kind of peachy orange, and that's really what I was interested in using to cover my dark circles. I don't really use the green, maybe just a little bit like under the nose to kind of combat some of that redness, but redness is not really my problem. My problem is really bad under eye circles. So using the orange shade before I use my concealer, I actually was very impressed with that product. I did try the darker shade of concealer from this palette and I did not like it at all. I think that between using both of them, it kind of really settled into the fine lines and I really didn't like the way it looked. It almost looked like if it was weathered. So I used the orange from this palette with my other concealers and have found that that works very well. So again, they do come in, I think 3 or 4 different shades. I'm gonna link everything down below, but I think this concealer palette was like $6 or $8 at the most. So even if that one orange shade is the only shade that works for me and everything else is kind of just blah, although the green worked well, as you know, it worked well on my red spots, so I can't say that that was bad. Just kind of like the concealer shades here just weren't my cup of tea. So, but again, if the orange is the only thing that works out of this palette for me, it will have been worth it because it's only a couple of bucks and it really is nice and orange to kind of diminish those dark circles. So the concealer and corrector is something you should take a look at if it's something you have a problem with. The next thing I have is their anti-shine foundation primer. I believe they have 2 of them or 3, like moisturizing and that sort of thing. I usually like a very matte finish to my face after I've used foundation, so I wanted to get the anti-shine. It's very good. It's basically something like the Smashbox primer, the original one, the clear one, that's almost like gel-like so that it blurs the pores and imperfections. I mean, that's really it in a nutshell, and it works just fine. It's nothing spectacular, nothing, you know, new and innovative, but it did work. It wasn't greasy or slick. It dried very nicely, you know, and made my foundation last just as long as any other foundation primer. So it wasn't anything that I noticed that everything was gone in a couple of hours. It felt really nice on the skin and didn't break me out. So, and this I think was like $4 or $5. So, you know, this is something nice to have in your kit or just in your makeup collection at home because it really is not that expensive. The next thing I tried is their Studio Pro HD foundation, and they have several different types of foundations, but I wanted something HD. I wanted something, this was a little more expensive. I want to say this was like $8 or $10, which really is not that expensive for an HD foundation. I was so surprised when I put this on. Like at first I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna, you know, put a lot of stripes on my face, and boy, did that cover. So I had to actually take some off. This is full on coverage. It doesn't feel like you're wearing anything on your skin. It just completely blurs everything and makes everything one tone. So I was very impressed with this foundation, as inexpensive as it was. I really didn't have high hopes for it, but I've only worn it twice, only because for work I tend not to do a full coverage foundation, and if I do foundation it's more like a CC cream. So again, I've only used this twice, but it works phenomenally. So if you're looking for an inexpensive full coverage foundation, this is definitely one that you should look at. I didn't break out from it. I mean, I know a lot of people have different skin types, so that's something that you have to judge for yourself. But as far as the way it feels on your skin, it did not feel heavy at all. Even as full coverage as it was, I didn't feel like I was wearing, you know, like I had cake face or anything like that. So I really was impressed with this one. The next 3 items actually I have are bronzers from them. I have two matte bronzers and they're both in the shade Diva. I love that bronzer. Probably really won't be able to see too much from there, but I mean, it's just a matte bronzer. There's no glitter or anything in it. And I think these are like $4.50. So because they were so inexpensive, I went ahead and bought a backup. And then this one is the illuminating bronzer. So it's like a quad. It has like pink, a bronzy color, a really white color, and then kind of a combination of those three in another shade there. So this is really nice swirled together, or you can just use one shade if you want for highlighting, and that's what I tend to do. The bronzer's great. I love the way it sits on the skin, and the illuminating bronzer is also great. So again, here, nothing over the top, nothing innovative, but it does work. It didn't make me break out or anything like that. It really lasted and gave me a nice warm glow. And for $4.50 a piece, you definitely can't go wrong. And I'm definitely going to be repurchasing this item once I finish the ones that I have. So the next three items I have are blush items from BH Cosmetics. They actually do have a lot of options as far as blushes. They have duos, they have singles, they have palettes as well. So I'm going to show you some of those. The first one I have is the Floral Blush Duo. I know a couple of YouTubers have talked about this and how much they enjoyed that. So this is what it looks like. You have your blush obviously on one side and then your highlighter on the other. Both the blush and the highlight are extremely good. The blush is beautiful. I mean, it sits on the skin gorgeously. You get a lot of color payoff from this blush. The one I have, again, is Rose. This is the only one I have. I've been trying to get Iris forever, and they're always sold out of that because that seems to be a very popular shade. So as far as, you know, this goes, the blush duos I think are really great. I want to say this is probably like $5. So again, I mean, BH Cosmetics is really an inexpensive brand all around. So the next two blush palettes I have, this is how they come here. And they have different ones. This is the Glamorous Blush palette, and then the one I have there is the Nude palette. So these are the shades in the Glamorous palette, which are absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful. I want to say this palette is probably $8 or $10, something like that. I think it's like maybe $10 or $12. Like I said, I'll link everything down below. And sometimes they just have really good sales as well, and you get like 75% off other things. So I've used this blush palette many times. I am just impressed with all of the shades. They just sit so beautifully on the skin, and it's kind of like this lit from within glow that you have. And one of the big things about makeup, one of my favorite makeup items is blush. So anytime I can get a palette, anytime I can get a single blush that is just gorgeous, I'm all about it. And this palette is definitely one of them. So the next palette I have is the Nude Blush palette. This is a newer palette from them. And that's what that looks like. So you can see the blushes are more subdued. They're a little more muted. But what I do is I tend to mix a couple of the shades just to get the shade that I like. But you have this shade here, if you could see that, that can actually be a bronzer for lighter skinned people. I don't think that would necessarily work on someone darker. But you get a lot of variety. And again, for $10 to $12 and you get 10 blushes, I think that's great. I don't have anything bad to say about these blushes at all. And I think the palettes are nice and sleek. They're really thin, so you can store them really nicely. About these blushes at all. And I think the palettes are nice and sleek. They're really thin, so you can store them really nicely. Are two of their eyeshadow palettes. So the first one is the Neutral Eye palette. And just recently they came out with a lot of like neutral products, including the blush palette and this eye palette. Let me see how far back I can hold it so you can see. So a lot of muted colors again. You know, you have a lot of your very white, light colors. You have a darker color up here, kind of this pink right here, and like muted plums and that sort of thing. But I have used this palette. I really do like it. The shadows last a nice long time. They are not the shadows that have lasted the longest that I've ever tried, but they have lasted a good long time. And then the last palette I have, which I was so excited to get, is the Foil Eyes 28 color palette. And that is what that looks like. So you have, as you can see, some muted colors, a couple of blues, purples, yellows, like a nice little cranberry up here. These foil shadows are really, really phenomenal. I really do like them a lot. I've used several of them in different looks at home, and just really like the way they sit on the eye. I've used the MAC Fix Plus with them. You don't really need to unless you want it to be really, really metallic, but they shine beautifully just, you know, just as they are all on their own. And then the last thing I have is the Carli Bybel palette. I'm sure a lot of people have seen this. I know a lot of people have ordered it, and it's only $12.50. It comes with 14 color eyeshadows, and oh, actually, I'm sorry. This is 14 color eyeshadow and highlighter palette. So you get 4 highlighters and 12 eyeshadows. So this is what it looks like, which is really, really beautiful. The highlighters are absolutely gorgeous and are beautiful on the skin. I do have to say that the eyeshadows, I wasn't really impressed with, unfortunately. I am going to give it another chance because I really do like the shades, but it's just almost like I had to keep going and keep going and keep going to build up the color, and I just didn't get, you know, good color payoff from that, which again, I'm surprised because I have heard good things about it. I just was, and I was a little upset because I was so excited to have it. You know, again, the highlighters are beautiful. I've used them. They're great. They sit on the skin beautifully, really nice and glowing, and you can build up, you know, until somebody can see you from space if that's what you want. But the eyeshadows, I don't know, they were just a little too chalky for my taste. I mean, this is, I'm going to try the metallic because I'm sure that'll be good, but just, this is like swiping, you know, 3 or 4 times, especially this one and this one. I don't think that the color payoff is really, really good. I'm going to try one more, the darker shade, you know, and that's kind of a little splotchy there. I don't know if you could see that. So again, when I was applying it, I took it off because I just was not getting the consistency and kind of the look that I was going for or thought I was going to get out of this palette. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. Again, you know, I could have gotten a bad one, or it may work better for you. It's just that the shadows, when I tried them, just didn't work too well for me. But the highlighters themselves are phenomenal. I mean, the highlighters are just quality products. So, I mean, $12.50 for 4 highlighters really still isn't a bad deal. So you could always just get the palette for that. But I am going to give it another chance because I do like the highlighters. But, you know, a little disappointed that it didn't work out with the eyeshadows quite as well as I had imagined that it would. So that's it for this review video, I guess, from BH Cosmetics. Just want to let you know this video is not in any way sponsored. I am going to do this for other companies as well, or the brands, not companies, because then it sounds like it's sponsored, but other brands as well. And if you have any questions about anything that I have talked about here today, if you'd like to see a tutorial with any of the products that I've talked about today, please let me know in the comments down below and I'll be sure to get that to you. Thank you so much for watching and joining me for this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.